Back in the late 90s, I was driving along US 169. This is in Minnesota, right by a very small hole-in-the-wall town called Page, of a population of maybe 500 at the time. This is when I saw something off the side of the road to my right. At the time, I was driving northbound, and as I approached closer, this dark figure stood up all the way, and it was right then and there that I got a fairly good look at what it was that had stood up. I estimate a height of around 8 feet tall. It was very hairy, long stringy hair, and quickly crossed in front of my vehicle in the dip of land in the median between both highways. It had very wide arm-to-shoulder shoulders and a large head, very pointed ears on the top, and long, very gnarly-looking legs, which almost went all the way up to its stomach, or so it looked. It had a weird lean to it as it walked forward, and did not walk straight up like that of a person would. It all happened very quickly. If I had to give a size to it, I would say it was pretty heavy-set and muscular, and very long-legged, almost disproportionately so, because the way it walked, I got the impression it could travel very fast, having very long strides. Again, it was on 2 legs, and walked across the road so fast that there's no humanly way possible that it could have been anybody in a suit. Why would anybody be in some convincing werewolf costume at 2:30 in the morning on the side of a highway? It just doesn't make any sense. That would have been the very first time that I saw this strange creature. Then, about 2 years later, this happened. A friend and I were driving back home from late at night again, driving through a small section of woods near another small town in Minnesota. It was also late at night, and we were driving very slowly. We were getting these awful whiffs of wet dog and rotting flesh. I had asked my friend if they had smelt anything while we were driving. Our windows were rolled up, so the smell was coming in through the AC. They said no. I was thinking about having them stop, but I was too focused on the road ahead of me. I asked them if they had seen anything, off the side of the road or on the side of the road, and nothing. But the smell continuously got worse. It was wet dog, but there was more decaying, rotting flesh smell than anything else. It was pretty pungent. Then, that's when we see these 2 large eyes pop up from the side of the road. In fact, the exact same side that I saw this creature from a couple years prior. It popped up, and then quickly leapt all the way across this 2-lane road into the other section of woods. Maybe about a 15-foot leap, all within 2 seconds. I didn't get as good of a look, but it looked to be nearly identical to the creature I saw prior, a couple years before. Even though we were roughly 300 miles away from that spot, it looked to be even uglier, and maybe a larger version of what I saw. It really freaked my friend out. He kept going on and on about what was that, and I calmly brought up my story from 2 years ago, saying that I think I saw some sort of strange creature, since I never brought up that story anyway. I mean, nobody would believe me. I was freaked out too, but I feel like now that he saw it, and I saw it, I can bring up my story and give him some reassurance that I too saw it and had seen it before. Although it didn't really help. We were both pretty scared, and double-timed it back to his house. We haven't talked about it since. I mean, this was nearly 20-plus years ago, but it serves as a reminder to be careful on the back roads in the middle of the night. You never know what might pop out of the woods, whether it be deer or something else. As far as the creature I saw, or I guess we saw, I have no idea what it is. Even though it looked werewolf-like, I don't believe it was truly a werewolf, since the idea of somebody transforming under a full moon just seems ridiculous. But I think that this might be some sort of undiscovered wolf animal, or maybe a hybrid of sorts. Maybe the only hybrid wolf bipedal creature that lives in North America. I don't know. I'm just trying to speculate, because that's the only thing that could possibly make sense. I didn't feel any harm, like it wanted to kill us or hurt us. I just feel like maybe both times I'd caught it off guard. If you've ever had the pleasure of driving through a blizzard, you'll know that it's not fun. If you've ever had to do it, you'll know that conditions can be extremely dangerous and even prove fatal if you're not careful. This very evening that I was driving through a solid whiteout, and at the time was up near the border of Canada in the winter, when I was in this horrendous snowstorm. Completely white all around me. I could barely even see the road. I don't even know if there was other vehicles around me, because it was completely whited out. And then I saw something, appearing out of the left-hand side, coming in my direction, approaching me. It stuck out like a sore thumb, which is probably the only reason I even noticed it in the first place, was because just how dark it was, kind of like it was absorbing the light around it. White and snow reflect light, but this seemed to absorb it. I know it's a strange description, but that's what it was like. Almost kind of a supernatural quality to it. It looked exactly like a huge dog, at least the silhouette of it. And the first thing I noticed, besides its ears and head, was this large silhouette, this huge upright dog walking on its hind legs. Then, I noticed very tall, pointy, perky ears, and a massive head, easily like putting a lion's head on a dog body, completely disproportionate, and didn't even seem physically possible. It came so fast towards my vehicle, I had to swerve off to the side of the road, in hopes this thing would not hit my vehicle. Well, I was going slow enough that I was able to turn my steering wheel in the opposite direction and press on the gas, knowing that I was easily risking my life and the safety of others around me. But this thing then jetted off in the opposite direction, away from my vehicle. I'm very lucky I did not crash or skid off into a ditch, or worse. What it was, I have no idea. I remember at the time, all I can think to myself was, what was that? I can tell you for sure that it was not a dog. That much I do know. But what thing looks like a dog, at least in silhouette form, and walks on two legs? And where did it come from? Why was it approaching my vehicle? It creeped me out, and I never stopped thinking about it, all the rest of the way up into Canada. Back in 1994, I saw something that I'll never forget. It was pretty late at night, around 2:33 a.m. in the morning, and I was working on scraping all the snow off my car window, since my job required me to get up early and leave early. It was at least an hour commute, and I had to be there by 4:30 sharp. And in this point in time, I was in easily the worst shape of my life. This was long back before I got in really fit shape, and at the time was drinking copious amounts of coffee, energy drinks, and anything I could to even function during the day. I was getting terrible sleep at night, probably due to my diet, so I tried to make up for it any time I could. But that's besides the point. After getting all the snow off my car, I got in and got ready to head off to work, when I saw the most strange animal in my life approaching my vehicle from the front. My mind began racing as I realized just how large this animal was. And then it did something that was more terrifying than you could ever imagine. It, whatever this thing was, stood up on two legs and crossed my 7-foot wide path right up to my vehicle, crouched down on one knee, and looked right at me through the front of my window. It had a dark reddish-brown fur covering its entire body. I'll never forget how scared I was. It was even taller standing up on two legs than the very top of my car. It stood at least 7 feet tall, and stood very comfortably, just like a man would. The face was what really stuck out to me, and what really gave it away as something not of this world. It looked like a cross between a wolf and a monkey's face, with a pronounced brow, large jawbones, and a mouth full of long, sharp teeth. and a shorter, more condensed muzzle. It also had human-like characteristics to its face, more around the corners of its mouth and its eyes, like it could give proper expression. Frozen and terrified, not sure what I should do, just slammed the car into drive, putting my foot all the way down on the gas pedal, as if I had a lead foot. I flew forward, and this thing dove out of the way just in time to avoid being hit. But it's not like me hitting it with my tiny car would have done anything. My car would have been the one to take the damage from whatever this thing was. But when it leapt out of the way, it was like lightning fast, inhumanly possible, like the blink of an eye just gone out of the way, and I drove forward onto my driveway road and off onto the side road. I flew out of there, much faster than I should have. In fact, I'm surprised I did not wreck. It was considerably cold that morning, and there was lots of ice and moisture on the road. I could have easily flew off the road and hit a tree and died. But I didn't care. Anything to get me away from whatever that creature was. I have a pretty scary encounter to share with you. This happened back in 1989 when I was a senior in high school, and I took my girlfriend outside of the city of New Orleans to a low bayou. This would have been at nighttime, and we wanted to escape from the wrath of our parents. We had it planned out all week long. We would leave on Friday without our parents ever knowing. I would take my dad's car. We'd go out to this nice little bayou in this spot we'd gone to before and make out. And if I was lucky, maybe even more would come from it. Well, I'm here to tell you that even in my own horny 18-year-old self, nothing ever did, and here's why. I picked up my girlfriend. We went out to our perfect spot on this calm little bayou. We laid a blanket down, and things got hot and heavy pretty quick. And just like typical horror movie fashion, my girlfriend started freaking out, thinking she heard something. I tried to convince her that it was nothing. It was just the sound of things around us, animals and whatnot, that we were totally fine. We made out for another moment or two, where she began screaming and pointing. Confused, I looked to see in the direction she was pointing at. In the trees, maybe about 30-40 feet away, was the face of a large wolf-looking shape. That's the best I can describe it to you. It was dark, and there was only a little bit of moonlight, so you couldn't see the best. But what was sticking out of the trees looked to be that of a very large wolf head, just going by the details of the lighting we could see. I didn't see any eyes, but it looked kind of creepy looking. And she said that wasn't there before. It's staring at us. Oh my gosh, we gotta get out of here. It's gonna get us. I tried to calm her down, saying it's just an illusion, since it wasn't moving. Or maybe it was a part of the trees. But then it did start to move, back and forth, like it was swaying, getting ready to charge. And that's how I can best describe it to you. This really put us both in a very uneasy spot and freaked us out. We both got up and started running back to the car, knowing full well we had just encountered some sort of wolf-looking thing out in the wilderness. Not sure what it was. I never thought of it as a werewolf, but it did definitely give off a very bad vibe, and judging by the size of that head, I have no idea what kind of giant wolves live out in the bayous of Louisiana, but I was not about to find out that night. That same girlfriend and I actually ended up marrying in 1993, and 9 years later, divorcing in 2002. We had 3 kids together, and she passed away of breast cancer back in 2011.